2 weeks ago, I did a video on a New York judge who declared that the Second Amendment doesn't exist in her courtroom and convicted Dexter Taylor because he was building guns as a hobby in his home. When I released that video, he hadn't been sentenced yet, but now he has. And they sentenced this man to 10 years in one of the worst prisons in the country. People don't realize how vicious these people are when it comes to their desire for control. None of this is about safety, it's about controlling the people. Notice I didn't say criminals. They need criminality to justify their heavy-handed control. They don't care that they're destroying a man's life just to set an example. I mean, they practically admit it. Today's sentence should send a message to anyone who, like this defendant, i.e. a regular citizen, who would try to evade critically important background checks and registration requirements to manufacture and stockpile these dangerous weapons. Do you really think criminals give a damn about this 10-year sentence? These criminals are committing crimes that will get them life in prison. What's a 10-year sentence? They're laughing at this dude and the system because they know this will do nothing to make New York any safer or make their jobs any harder. It's a dog and pony show to scare the normies who obey the laws. They know this man isn't a threat to anyone. He wasn't selling these guns to criminals. They act like this man was Victor Bout smuggling weapons across the world. He had 5 handguns, 4 rifles, and 50 rounds of ammo. That's nothing. I have more guns than that on the wall behind me. This is 50 rounds right here. 50 rounds. I have more than 50 rounds of ammo floating around the inside of my truck. But because I live in a state that recognizes my constitutional right, I'm walking around free as a bird. But this man's life is being destroyed for having what I have in this room because his state wants to make an example out of him for exercising his constitutional right. I see people saying, I'm all for the Second Amendment, but he did break the law. He should have known better. I'm sorry, but when did state law trump the Constitution? It's written plain as day on the ATF website as well. A license is not required to make a firearm solely for personal use. However, a license is required to manufacture firearms for sale or distribution. The law prohibits a person from assembling non-sporting semi-automatic rifles or shotguns from 10 or more imported parts, as well as firearms that cannot be detected by metal detectors or X-ray machines. In addition, the making of an NFA firearm requires a tax payment and advance approval by the ATF. He wasn't selling guns. None of them were NFA items. None of them were made from 10 or more imported parts. He's being sentenced to 10 years in prison because of made-up state laws that is clearly in violation of the Constitution. But New York leaders are so anti-2A, they don't care what the federal or the Constitution says because they know it'll take years and years before a case will get to the Supreme Court before it's shut down. Also, keep this in mind. 2 months ago, I did a video about how Visa, MasterCard, and American Express will start tracking gun and ammo purchases. So American Express, Visa, and MasterCard have decided to start tracking your gun and ammo purchases.
Tonight, some major credit card companies are working to comply.
This is a gun registration, nothing more, nothing less. And anyone want to take a guess what caused the police to even go to Dexter Taylor's home in the first place? Because it wasn't like he was out shooting and robbing people and then they came back and found the guns. No, if you said they tracked his purchases online, you'd be right. This shirt and the hat that I'm wearing hits a little different now, doesn't it? New York has been playing fast and loose with the Second Amendment for a very long time. They've been crafting these unconstitutional gun laws, basically throwing a challenge to the Supreme Court to strike them down. And they know just how long that can take. For about 100 years, the average Joe or Jane in New York couldn't even think about getting a concealed carry permit. That was until the Supreme Court stepped in with the New York State Rifle and Pistol Association, Inc. versus Bruin decision on June 23, 2022. The High Court knocked down New York's old law that forced you to show proper cause to carry concealed. The Supreme Court said clear as day, the Second Amendment backs the right to carry a loaded handgun in public for self-defense, knocking New York's unconstitutional law right out of the park. And they're doing the exact same thing again with this so-called ghost gun laws. Ghost guns are nothing more than guns made on their own by citizens. The only difference now is technology makes it so you don't have to be a full-blown gunsmith to do it. And guess what you can't do if people can make their own guns? Confiscate them. That is, unless you violate people's right to privacy and monitor their online transactions and then raid their home because you don't like their hobby. It's disgusting, and now this man's life is ruined for it, while the real criminals are running around free as a bird with all of the guns they want because criminals don't buy legal parts online to get their guns. So I ask, What's the point of having a constitution if states can pick and choose which part of the constitution they want to recognize? And for those who don't care because you don't care about the Second Amendment, I hope you feel the same way when a state starts blatantly violating a constitutional right you do care about. Now begins the long process of trying to get this case to the Supreme Court, while a good man sits in prison rotting away, put in there by a judge who literally fixed her mouth to say the Second Amendment doesn't exist in her courtroom. Now, politicians and tech giants also don't want 2A content recommended to you. And we're all fighting this culture war together, so you can help do your part by liking, commenting, subscribing to the channel. But the most important thing you can do is share this video with at least one person, because together we can stop the suppression of our 2A rights and get this story out to as many people as we can. And don't forget to click the link in the description section of this video